It's Free Talk Live. You are welcome to join us here. The toll-free number, 855-450-FREE, like freedom. That's 855-450-3733. Can bring up anything you want. With you in the studio tonight, it's Ian.
And nobody.
And Chris.
So we're going to start out with an encouraging story about one of the least encouraging places, Massachusetts, and what's going on there with their tolls. As you may be aware, it's one of the states that got rid of its human toll takers. I don't know, 3-4 years ago or something like that. It's not been too long. They got rid of them and they replaced them with the automated toll systems that take your photo, take the photo of your license plate as you're driving through them, and they just bill you.
Yeah, they won't take cash, basically.
They can't anymore. There's nobody there to do it. So we're going to get into what's going on there because there's some good news about this. It's hard to say there's...
Sort of. Yeah.
It's rare that you can say there's good news about tolls, but this is some good news. We're going to get into it. Plus, the latest on Ed and Elaine Brown, which longtime listeners may remember as a tax freedom couple who has been spending the last decade of their lives, decade and a half almost, of their lives, and they're in there, I think they're now in their almost 80 years old.
Wow.
So they're very elderly. And there's an update in their case. We're going to give that to you coming up here in moments. And if you want to join the show, you can. You can take control of the airwaves here. The toll-free number is 855-450-FREE, like freedom. That's 855-450-3733. But let's get to the good news first about tolls, because we did have some other good news about tolls recently. As you pointed out before we went on the air, Chris, we talked recently that there's actually New Hampshire tolls, a couple of tolls in New Hampshire that are being eliminated completely. They're not being replaced with anything. They're just shutting them down, even though there's revenue coming through those tolls. Whatever committee or whoever it was that the committee on tolls or whoever looked at this thing, and they decided that it was not fair to the residents of that particular area. It's like one of those tolls that's like on an off-ramp from a major thoroughfare, and it sort of picks on one particular town. So they're shutting that one down. And that's good news. But this is also interesting news, Chris. What do you have to share? Where's it coming from?
So this is coming from masslive.com.
Okay.
It's basically the title of the story is out-of-state drivers owe MassDOT $15 million in Massachusetts turnpike tolls under gantry system. So this is the cashless tolling they're talking about. So out-of-state drivers traveling along the Massachusetts Turnpike without Easy Pass transponders owe the state more than $15 million in uncollected tolls and fees. Well, that's what happens when you get rid of the toll booths.
Now, I wonder under what... like how long of a term do they owe that for? Is that the last year? Is that the last 4 years? I mean, I wonder what length of time we're talking about. Is that the entire time that they've had these automated tolling systems in? I'm going to guess it's the latter. I'm going to guess that's the cumulative amount. And I wonder if that also includes like the all the fees that they add in when you don't pay, right? Because if it's a $2 toll or a $1 toll when you go through,
so the $15 million I think was just for 1 year.
1 year,
2 years it was $54 million.
$54 million.
Yeah. So this is between 2016 and 2018.
Okay.
So 2 years.
2 years
it was covering. Yeah.
$54 million.
$54 million for those 2 years, it looks like.
And I also wonder if that includes all the extra like penalty fees, right? Because if you go through the toll, it's $1 toll and you pay it. If you don't pay it, it goes up to like $10 or $20 or $50 or whatever after some amount of time.
It's absolutely ridiculous. And I don't know if it was well, I actually can tell you what the fees were. I think it went up to like... Well, I don't know exactly what it is, but it was something like $1 fee can go up to like $28 if you ignore the you ignore the letters a couple of times.
Right.
I know somebody who has ignored the letters a couple times now. So it's interesting to see how high does it go? Does it go to 500? Does it go to 5,000? Does it go to 100,000?
I don't know. I'll let you know because I've been shredding those things. I don't have one here to like show to you, but they've been showing up here at this house. And who knows who was driving the car at the time? I mean, who's liable exactly for these these tickets?
Well, I think the state's going to argue the owner of the vehicle, but it's a good question.
In my case, that's a corporation, the vehicle that I drive.
Well, then the corporation owns it, and you don't know anything.
Well, how's it gonna take the corporation to court? And is it going to take the corporation to court?
Sounds
like so far they haven't been able to do that.
The ability or the authority to necessarily, because they have to have some sort of reciprocal agreement. And let me get into the story, and it'll talk a little bit about why Massachusetts is unable to collect these fees.
All right.
Out-of-state drivers traveling along the Massachusetts Turnpike without Easy Pass transponders owe the state more than $15 million in uncollected tolls and fees, which, in a moment we'll hear, it's actually $54 million. Payments. The Mass Department of Transportation is largely unable to collect.
Well, right. I mean, I know there's more here, but exactly when they say I owe the state, or these people owe the state, under what agreement? When did I sign an agreement saying I owed the state for their little toy that they have on the road? I know
that they have little signs, like tiny signs on the side of the road that you can't even read. And actually, I've been through before the signs were even up, and
what do they
still before it was supposed to be in place, the whole system. And they still will bill you for it. And even when you dispute or attempt to dispute, they'll just basically automatically decline your attempt to get.
But what do these signs say? You're saying they have signs on the side.
So they have signs saying something about cashless tolling and how you, if you use this road, I guess you will owe them a money, I guess. I'm not entirely sure what they say in detail, but it's like they're small. They're on the side of the road. They're hard to see. They try to hide them, and then they bill you for it later. As of this month, MassDOT reported that more than 2 million out-of-state drivers had traveled on Interstate 90 without transponders under the new system, which are
2 million drivers?
Yeah, 2 million, which replaced toll plazas with scanners mounted atop gantries. Of those pay-by-plate drivers, so that's what they're calling this. They're calling it pay-by-plate.
Pay-by-plate, okay.
Right. So they're basically saying that because you're driving through, I guess, and you're not able to pay any other way, or you're not at least using the Easy Pass system, that you have agreed to somehow pay by plate. It's ridiculous, but nonetheless, nearly 1.8 million had made at least one payment for tolls owed since the cashless system took effect in October 2016. So it sounds
these are really interesting numbers. So 1.8 million out of 2 million drivers who were issued these pay-by-plate tickets paid them.
No. It's at 4 million roughly.
I'm sorry, I thought you said 2 million.
2 million didn't pay, I thought, and then
I apologize. I thought you said it was 2.
And then 1.8 million had paid, so it would be.
Where did you get the 2 million number? Because I thought you said it was 2 million drivers total who were going with pay by plate.
2 million out-of-state drivers had traveled interstate without transponders, so that would mean that there's.
That doesn't mean they didn't pay. That means there was 2 million people they issued tickets to from out of state.
Okay.
And then out of that, 1.8 million of them paid it.
Okay. Yeah, you're probably
right. Which is a 10% non-cooperation level.
Right.
That's very interesting.
It is.
1 out of 10 out-of-state drivers. Remember,
got to get those numbers up. Those
absolutely.
Right,
That's what the point of this conversation is.
So,
right?
I mean, basically, you're going to learn on this show how to avoid paying Massachusetts tolls as we continue.
And maybe this may apply to other states. Now, we don't know for sure. Because these different states have these interlocking agreements with one another as far as turning over information about drivers and such. We'll get into it. But there's a chance that whatever strategies we're going to talk about here could apply in any other state where – no, this isn't legal advice, just saying that it could apply in any other state where they have these what do you call them? The automated toll systems.
Right. So this is actually true. It's basically if the state has a reciprocal agreement with your state, okay, they may be able to suspend your driver's license or vehicle registration. It's probably vehicle registration, not driver's license. In Mass, they can suspend your driver's license, I think, but I don't.
If you're a Mass resident.
If you're a Mass resident. Well, no. If you're. Well, yeah, I guess if you're a Mass resident, because then you'd have a Mass license. But
right.
Yeah. So of those, let's see here. So we said that.
1 out of 10 not paying.
Of those pay-by-plate drivers, nearly 1.8 million had made at least one payment for tolls owed since the cashless system took effect in October 2016.
2016, okay.
A total collection of $54 million, officials said.
Let's talk more about this coming up here. This is really interesting and I think useful to a lot of people out there who, I mean, nobody likes paying tolls. I don't mean you, nobody, our co-host. I mean, no one out there likes paying tolls. Do you? I mean, if there is somebody out there who thinks tolls are somehow a good thing, you're welcome to call in. The toll-free number here is 855-450-FREE-LIKE. It's Free Talk Live. Dial toll free and bring up whatever you want. Our number here is 855-450-FREE, like freedom. That's 855-450-3733. We do have the Discord on-air call-in line rooms at discord.lrn.fm, so feel free to hop into one of those, and you'll sound almost like you're sitting here in the studio with us tonight. You've got Ian.
The nobody formerly known as Rich Paul.
And Chris.
Of course, you can bring up anything that you want. We've been discussing this story about the Massachusetts Easy Pass system, and a lot of states have systems like this.
Yeah, it's more specifically cashless tolling, though, because not all the states that have Easy Pass have cashless tolling.
True, but Easy Pass comes first, right? So first they implement Easy. It's sort of like a stepping process.
It's definitely a stepping stone, and it's definitely relying on Easy Pass in order to work.
Yes, so they got this Easy Pass. For listeners that don't know, that's a transponder that you put on like your dash window or whatever, and you just drive underneath the whatever radio technology detects this thing, and it you preload the transponder's account with credit card, some sort of amount of money, and then it just deducts that, right? And that's the idea behind Easy Pass is you avoid the human toll takers. It's faster for people that are in a hurry to get somewhere, commuters and travelers.
Right, Easy Pass is basically a tracking technology that enables them to track you wherever you go.
And the tracking is an aspect as well, but it's sold to the consumer as, hey, this is going to be more convenient.
Right. It's definitely
is.
Sold as a convenience.
It is.
Sort of, but it would be even easier if they just got rid of the tolls altogether, because then you don't need to deal with the bills at all.
But that would be something that they would do if they cared about, I don't know, helping people.
Well, I don't know, because that would mean they would be paying for it by general taxation, so you pay for the road whether you drive on it or not. The nice thing about tolls is you only pay for that road if you drive on it, and if they build a road out to some senator's summer place where nobody goes, then nobody will pay the tolls there.
Usually the tolls are on highly trafficked roads, though, not roads to the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, generally, yeah, because the system doesn't work when they build roads to nowhere because nobody drives on it.
And the tolls don't go away. It's not like they just raise the money for the road and then they disappear.
I mean, that's how they sell you on the toll road.
I mean, if anybody buys that, I'd like to sell them a bridge. I mean, because it's a crazy idea. They don't almost never get rid of tolls anywhere. Now, with one exception, we did just talk about New Hampshire actually getting rid of
New Hampshire is definitely unusual when it comes to a lot of stuff.
But they're like, wow, well, we got all this revenue coming in. Why would we want to get rid of all that revenue? So instead, they put in the Easy Pass system so that way they can fire some of the toll takers, right? So if you have a 6-lane highway, or 6 lanes one direction and 6 lanes the other, right? Like you got a huge highway, and you put an Easy Pass in 4 out of the 4 out of the 6 lanes, and you keep toll takers in the other 2 lanes. You've just cut your overhead down by a significant margin. I mean, that's a huge amount of money that you don't have to pay.
It may be getting oversold, though, for a variety of reasons, because ultimately, if you're unable to collect, which is this story is demonstrating, on a certain percentage of the tolls, the loss in revenue from those uncollectible fees at that point is going to have an effect on the efficiency.
No, it's nothing. I mean, so what they're doing is they're saving a ton of money by firing the toll takers. And so first they fire most of them because they put an Easy Pass in the majority of the lanes, and they kept the human toll takers in like 2 out of 4 lanes, right? Well, now in Massachusetts, they've gotten rid of all the human beings from the toll-taking operation. In any business, the number one cost is your staff, is the human beings. And so they've gotten rid of
everybody. Theoretically, you should be right?
So what's happened now?
The problem, though, is that there's a whole nother system for pay-by-plate that has its own set of costs. So it's not
but that's operated by a private company. It's not even run by the state.
Right, it's contracted out, but then there's also a profit that company ends up having to make or wanting to make.
Whatever the costs of that company are reflected in the agreement they made with the state.
But for the state, the amount of money they're paying is way down because they don't have to pay any employees to take these tolls. Whatever it is that Easy Pass is charging to run the pay-by-plate system is a fraction of what they were paying however many human operators to sit out in toll booths 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. The pay-by-plate system is an automated system. Yeah, they had to pay the programmers to write the code for the system, but they basically take your pictures of your plates and send you mail.
I don't disagree with you that there is some efficiencies here. The problem is that we're talking government and we're talking about government contracts.
Sure.
And there's this huge associated cost, and there's this huge system that is now added on top of another system, which is easy.
But they're still saving a ton of money.
I don't know.
You'd really have to look at the numbers to know that, because sometimes government contracts are sweetheart deals where the government loses money and the people they're doing business
I don't even
make
have to
money.
look.
Are the people running Easy Pass cronies?
The argument. Okay. So here, let's back up a second. One of the things that they said originally about this was it wasn't about the money, because apparently I don't know if anybody ever made the argument this was going to save them money. What I recall them making the argument was
that was an argument.
One of the arguments that they made was it was going to reduce the congestion and speed up.
That's true.
People going through the
true.
Tolls. It wasn't so much a money thing. And one of the things they did say, though, I think at some point that I was reading, was that even taking into account the loss in revenue that they from uncollected tolls when it was originally put in place, the projection was that they would still be better off going through with it.
Absolutely.
So I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just not sure it's as the deal is as good as you think it is.
You may be right about that. We don't have the numbers in front of us.
There's also here's the other thing to look at. You're comparing it to having a toll booth with a human collector. I'm
comparing it to having 6 toll booths with a human collector.
Well, there's going to be more than that,
or whatever
all the toll roads that they're replacing it with.
Right.
The point that I'm making is that it really kind of depends on what percentage. If you're paying somebody, minimum wage or a little bit better than minimum wage to collect tolls, and they're collecting a substantial amount of money, which is undoubtedly going to be the case.
Yeah.
On an hourly basis, it actually is probably not going to be that. It may not be that much of a difference, because these automated systems are very expensive to operate as well. And the other thing is, we're not comparing it against having no tolls. Like, if we got rid of the tolls, I shouldn't say we, but if the state got rid of the tolls, it would actually substantially reduce the cost of operation also, because you no longer have to operate any kind of tolling system if it goes into your normal tax collection revenue stream, because each of these systems that we add on top of property tax, that just the IRS, the regular system that they use to collect taxes, is another set of people that they have to hire. It's another set of technology you have to implement. All of that has a substantial cost, and it's somewhere around 30. You pay 30% more as a result.
I guarantee
than if we just got rid of the tolls altogether.
Even if it was 2 million people, you said, were out-of-state people in Massachusetts since 2016, since the system went in place.
Well, I think that was for
2 million out-of-state residents.
I think that was for 1 year or 2 years, maybe.
Okay, then whatever it was.
Yeah.
2 million of them. It was 8 out of 10 of them, or 1/10 of them didn't pay the tickets.
Yep.
Though the rest of them paid. You've got an incredible level of compliance there.
Oh, absolutely.
Even if all 2 million didn't pay. Yep. Even if there was 0% compliance, I guarantee you their revenues are up, because they don't have to pay any staff and the entire system is completely automated. They're still getting a ton of money from all the Easy Pass people and all the in-state residents.
It's probably a bit of a stretch to say it's completely automated, but it's mostly automated, yeah.
Yeah, 855-450-FREE. That's 855-450-3733. More about how you can get out of paying.
The next generation wallet is coming from Divvy. In just a few taps, you'll be able to send, earn, spend, and exchange digital money in seconds. Send money around the globe with only a swipe. Instantly exchange between Divvy, Bitcoin, and fiat right in the mobile app, and withdraw directly to your bank account. Divvy already offers the first one-tap solution for earning passive income with crypto. Multi-tiered masternodes allow everyone to partake in the network. Visit DivvyProject.org. DivvyProject.org.
This is Free Talk Live. You can bring up whatever you want here. The toll-free number is 855-450-FREE like freedom. That's 855-450-3733 here tonight. You've got Ian.
Nobody.
And Chris.
We've been talking about the automated toll systems that you're going to probably see rolling out in other states.
Oh, yeah. They're definitely rolling out all over the place.
And, they're selling it as, it's going to make things move faster. And that's true.
Oh, yeah.
But come on. One of the pitches they're making to the state governments is you'll keep more revenue. That's got to be one of the pitch points to that, because the state doesn't really care about inconveniencing you.
I'm sure it is.
The argument to the state could also be, we'll make a donation to your re-election campaign.
Sure.
In which case they don't care if they're saving money or paying more money so long as they're getting paid off.
Well, but the bureaucracies aren't run by elected people. The bureaucracies are run by bureaucrats, and they absolutely do want to have more money that they can play within their budgets.
Yeah, the decisions are made by elected people, though. The bureaucrats do what they're told.
In Mass, I think there was some sort of elected political decision on this, I think, because there was a debate and everything else.
I bet there was, yeah.
So I don't think this was just it was bureaucratic maybe, but it wasn't
but the bureaucrats will go to bat for
bureaucrat.
it. Remember? Like when you see the hearings at the State House here in New Hampshire, and there's a proposal to change something, the bureaucrats come and they fight for or they fight against whatever the proposal is.
For sure.
So these bureaucrats don't care about inconveniencing you, right?
No, of course not.
They don't care about that. That's why tolls existed in the first place. They're a total inconvenience.
Yeah.
But it's money. It's all about the money.
Right. It's to extract money from people.
So this allows them. They didn't lower the tolls in Massachusetts,
and then they come back and say, "Well, we're not going to. We can avoid raising taxes as if it's not a tax, right?"
Yeah. It's not like they were like, "Well, this lowered the cost, so we're going to pass the savings on. We're lowering the tolls to 50 cents." No, they kept the tolls probably the same price or raised them.
They raised them with the. If you do not have Easy Pass, you're actually paying more now.
Yeah.
So
very sneaky.
They actually said it costs more, I think, for pay by plate.
Well, of course
to
it does.
run that.
Because they have to send an invoice. They
right,
have to pay
exactly.
postage.
So, I mean, this idea that it's costing less or saving money, I think, is probably that might be how they sold it, but I think it's a bit of a.
Well, we don't have the numbers in front of us. I would be interested to see
if it costs less. Why are they charging me more now?
Because they're
than
paying
previously?
Postage. They're paying postage.
Right, so it doesn't cost less.
For the
it
same
costs
reason
more.
that dogs lick their crotches.
They want you to
because they can.
They want to encourage you to get Easy Pass, right? So that's part of the pitch.
No doubt.
So hey. It costs a little bit more if you don't have Easy Pass, but here's how you get Easy Pass.
Hold on. Let's back up a moment. So Easy Pass, they charge more to people who have Easy Pass too.
Do they?
Yes, it's just that they don't charge more to people who have Easy Pass in mass. So if you have a mass Easy Pass, you'll get one price. If you have an out-of-state Easy Pass, you get another price that's higher, and if you have no Easy Pass, you pay even more of a premium.
Yeah, well, they want to encourage people to get the Easy Pass because of what you said before. They can track you,
right?
And that is very valuable to states.
Oh yeah,
knowing
absolutely.
where you are, not only getting your money, but knowing where you are. We're going to continue on the story here because there are ways to get around this, and that's sort of the whole gist of this conversation. That's what we're going to come back into. But I do want to let you know about Liberty stickers. We're talking about driving around. What better way to reach a bunch of people, especially if you do a lot of driving? If you're driving to work every day or you drive for a living, you put bumper stickers on the back of your car. LibertyStickers.com has some of the best out there. A huge selection of witty, poignant, pithy, and downright bombastic, liberty-oriented messages. At LibertyStickers.com, you can reach a lot of people with them. I just got a set of stickers for Bitcoin Embassy, New Hampshire. And so they do them custom. Not only do they have like pre-made, really smart, funny stuff, but if you need something done for your business or perhaps you've got an organization or a political campaign or whatever, Liberty Stickers can do it. And hopefully we're going to be talking to them about getting cryptocurrency set up as well. The owner I spoke with last week, he's very interested in that. LibertyStickers.com. We go to Dana in Maine watching on YouTube. Hello, Dana.
How you doing?
Hey, you're on the air.
Guys. Yeah, I just wanted to criticize you a little bit. Last night you were talking about Venezuela.
Yeah.
You sounded like the Republicans. You sound like Rush Limbaugh or Sean Hannity or something. You used the same arguments as they did.
What arguments?
Calling them socialist. I looked up on Wikipedia. According to Wikipedia, government expenditures as a percentage of GDP, that's a pretty good indicator, right? I won't argue there, right?
No, the price controls that shut down their economy.
40% Venezuela, 41.6% United States. So
that has nothing to do with whether they're socialist or not.
Yeah, the way they implemented socialism down there was through price controls. So basically, they would come into an industry and they'd say, "Oh, you're all charging the wrong prices. You have to charge these prices." And then the industry would start charging those prices, and then they would go out of business. So they crushed the economy that way.
They then went in and have seized lots of businesses. They seized the means of production. Right. They went nationalized.
Yeah.
So you no longer can own I guess you can legally you're technically allowed to own a business, I guess, but they make it so that you can't effectively run a business legally, and thus then they go in and
if you have a small business, it's not going to be worth their time to go in and steal it. But if you're a big successful business, they're going to take
it. It sounds like they were going to go after small businesses too. They were seizing.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
I've never been down there. I don't know. Is it possible it's fake news out there? Anyway,
there's different opinions. Hold on, you asked a question and then you kept talking. So let's answer your question here. Yeah, there are different opinions in the news about Venezuela. That is definitely true. We've read stories from both of the viewpoints. There's the viewpoint that people are starving, or not quite starving, but hungry and losing weight.
People are starving. There was an article in the New York Times about children starving literally to death.
Yeah, so there's those stories, and then there's a story that I saw in RT, which of course Russia is allied with. RT's Russia Today. Russia, the government there, is allied with the Venezuelan government. And the story on Russia Today was all about how this Venezuelan grocery store is well stocked and there's plenty of food and everything's totally fine.
Okay. So let's talk about what we do as Americans here.
What do you do?
You never mention the level of economic sabotage that these stinking Republicans who are in charge now.
It doesn't take economic sabotage to shut down a socialist nation. Marx sabotaged Venezuela.
You're freezing their accounts. You're coercing.
I'm not doing anything, sir.
Well, they are freezing the account of some of the corrupt officials down there, but that doesn't mean that if the accounts weren't frozen, socialism would work. It wouldn't.
Sound like Rush Limbaugh, man.
So there is some truth to what you're saying. They are
Republicans, aren't you? Aren't you Republicans?
No, I'm not a Republican. Are you a moron?
Hold on a second. Let me say this. There is some truth.
Aren't you Republicans? You sound like Republicans.
Well, you sound like an idiot.
Okay, hold on. Slow down just a moment here. You don't understand, sir. Dana, I just want to say you don't know what you're talking about. You don't know what you're talking about, first and foremost. We've been on the air through Republican and Democrat administrations over almost 2 decades on this show, and the one thing that we're consistent about is we don't care for either of those people. You
lean Republican, though. You lean Republican.
No, that's not
we
true.
lean toward freedom.
I am in favor of freedom, sir.
We lean toward freedom.
Okay, so
apparently you lean away from freedom, so you think freedom is Republican. But if you look at the Republican platform, you won't find much freedom there either.
The Republicans aren't for freedom.
Are you guys registered Republicans? Aren't you guys registered Republicans?
Well,
it's true.
So I am registered Republican because I'm.
Get honest here. Get real.
Would you let him answer the damn question?
You don't have a choice right now whether you want to be registered Republican or not in New Hampshire. There's only 2 parties you can register with, either the Republicans or the Democrats or independent.
There's some important difference that favors the Republicans over the Democrats.
No, because this is not true.
Dana, within the last 5 years of my life, I have been a registered Democrat, a registered independent, and a registered Republican. What do you have to say about that?
Same here.
And a registered libertarian.
That's true. And a registered libertarian.
Yes, I was registered libertarian.
We could be members of the Libertarian Party.
Dana, you can't talk at the same time as we're talking, otherwise no one can understand what's being said. So I'm going to put you on hold, and I would love to have you respond to the fact that everyone in this room actually has been, I believe, registered as a Republican and a Libertarian, and I've certainly been a Democrat. I don't know about you. You have as well?
I was a Democrat.
You were a Democrat as well. I've run for governor as a Democrat in the state of New Hampshire. So I would like to hear what you have to say to that, Dana. The toll-free number here, because everything for you is about Republican or Democrat. For us, it's about whether it's for freedom or not. It's Free Talk Live. You can bring up whatever you want here. More tips on avoiding tolls coming up here in moments. These people that have implemented these tolling systems to essentially remove humans from the process. It turns out it actually makes it a little easier to dodge around these toll systems. We'll tell you about that coming up here in a bit. With you in the studio tonight, it's Ian.
Nobody.
And Chris.
By the way, I want to let you know about Edge Wallet. You need to get in the world of cryptocurrency like Bitcoin or Dash, Bitcoin Cash, Ethereum, Monero, Ripple, Stellar, Ravencoin, and others. Well, Edge Wallet can help you with that. You can buy, sell, trade, and securely hold cryptocurrencies. It's user-controlled, so you own your own money, and you can secure your freedom with Edge Wallet. It's available on iOS and Android devices. I helped a local business owner set up an Edge Wallet this week. Actually, 2 local business owners set up Edge Wallets for themselves, and it's always a nice feeling to do that. Giving people a little more control over their money, stepping away from banks and government control over money. Go to edge.app to learn more about the technology behind Edge, or just go straight to your Google or Apple app stores and download Edge Wallet and get started. Edge Wallet, as we continue with Dana in Maine, who's called to basically accuse us of being Republicans here tonight. And while it is true that while I am...
Is that not what he just said?
That's what you started your call with. What was your point then?
Yeah. I know you're Republicans. You're registered Republicans, but deep down you're libertarians, I guess, small L libertarians.
Okay, thank you for that. You're right. Because to me, it's all about the ideas of freedom and liberty. And if I can get the ideas of liberty out as a Democrat, as I ran for New Hampshire state governor twice in 2 years, or 2 different election terms to run as a Democrat in the gubernatorial primary, then I will do that. And if I can get on the ballot easier as a Republican here in Keene, which is why I'm a registered Republican now, because being a libertarian is a lot harder to get on the ballot because the Republicans and Democrats have worked together to keep third parties like the Libertarians and the Green Party off of state ballots.
That's
laws
the
here are
first corruption of the Democratic and Republican Party is sucking into themselves all political power so that they can rig their primary, and then the candidate and then the elected official will always be somebody who is acceptable to the Republican Democratic duopoly.
Right.
Yeah. We live in a plutocracy. There's a Republicrats. There isn't a stinking dimes difference. But I want to talk about Venezuela. You guys
great.
seem to apologize for the U.S. using tremendous economic leverage and power.
No, there's no apology.
First off, I didn't apologize because I didn't do it.
Hold on. Hold on. Before you go on.
Venezuela more than you criticize the U.S.
That's not true at all.
Venezuela.
We're on the air.
You criticize the U.S. on the issue of Venezuela. You seem to apologize for him. I'm sorry. That's my impression.
That is not true at all. Let me clarify for you. First of all, we're on the air 7 nights a week, probably 13 out of 14.
I heard you last night.
Probably 13 out of 14 nights we're talking about things local to the United States, but every now and then, we talk about Venezuela, and we criticize the fact that the United States government has sanctions against Venezuela in the same way that we criticize the U.S. government sanctions against Iran and Cuba and any other Syria and any other country that they have sanctions against.
Sanctioning a communist country is like kicking a dwarf. They're starving already.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. It's maddening to see how the most vulnerable. What they're trying to do is.
But the thing is, let him go on. Let him go on. Go ahead, sir.
They're trying to squeeze the poorest people in that country. These stinking rotten Republicans and Democrats. And I still say that it's kind of crazy for you guys to be registered with these rotten, stinking Republicans.
No, it's not crazy. It's actually
Democrats. It's not a stinking dimes difference.
It's strategic, man.
It's strategic.
In any way?
You haven't
why
listened.
Would anyone support them in any?
You haven't allowed us to explain. So you want to let us explain?
We don't support most of what the Republicans have to say, even though we're registered Republicans.
Right. So let me explain it to you.
Republicans hate liberty, and Democrats hate liberty more. We are in the position of fighting for more liberty.
Let me explain to you.
We are not part of either of those parties.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm technically a member of the Republican Party. I'm actually the Libertarian. Not Libertarian. I'm the chairman of the Keene, New Hampshire Republican Committee. But that doesn't mean I am with the Republicans on their viewpoints, whatever the hell those are. Here, let me explain it to you. What it means is in New Hampshire, the Republicans and Democrats have created ballot access restrictions that make it very difficult for third parties to get on the ballot. In 2016, the Libertarian Party regained ballot access for the first time in 20 years in New Hampshire. And the reason they did that was because their gubernatorial candidate got more than 4% of the vote in 2016. So in 2018, the Libertarians, as a result of that 2016 election, had equal ballot access as the Republicans and Democrats for the first time in 20 years. Do you follow me so far?
Yeah.
Okay.
We got it up here in Maine, same thing.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm well aware. I've been following politics for a long time.
Great.
Guys.
So let me just explain to you what happened.
Okay.
Let me explain. Just because I'm a member doesn't mean I support them. Okay, so let me go on. So they had the Libertarians on the ballot for the first time in 20 years in 2018. I became a registered Libertarian for the first time because I could not do that before in New Hampshire. I moved here in 2006, and since that time until 2018, I could not be a registered Libertarian. Okay, you following me so far?
Yeah.
Okay, so we ran as Libertarians in 2018's election. Sadly, the Libertarian candidate for governor in 2018 did not get the 4% result that is required to continue being on the same level as the Republican and Democrats. So after one election, the Libertarians were demoted from major party status. That means that it is no longer an option. I don't know how Maine works, but in New Hampshire, that means Libertarian it was off the list. If you were a Libertarian registered person, you would then be a undeclared person, meaning you have no political party affiliation. Well, we like to run for office around here. We like to throw our hat into the ring to get the ideas of liberty out. And so the Democrats in Keene, where we live, are particularly strong. They're they're a busy party. They've got lots of members. They have no problem fielding candidates. Whereas the Republicans, man, they are basically dead in the water. They have no candidates. In the 2018 election, there was one Republican candidate in Keene, New Hampshire, who ran for state representative. And that was out of seven.
The mayor is a Republican.
That's a nonpartisan seat.
In theory.
Well, it's a nonpartisan seat.
He's still a Republican.
As far as getting on the ballot.
Actually, he's not. He's, I believe, undeclared.
Really?
But,
but it doesn't matter either way because
it's nonpartisan.
This is an issue of getting on the ballot.
Correct. This is about getting on the ballot. So in the state representative races, there are 7 state reps in Keene, New Hampshire. 7 seats. The Republicans were only able to field one candidate for those 7 seats in 2018. So I figured, all right, well, if we need to join some party to get on the ballot easily so we don't have to go and collect a ton of petition signatures to run as a Libertarian, because in New Hampshire it costs $2 to run as a Republican or Democrat. Instead of that, with a Libertarian, you have to collect like 150 signatures.
You'd be spending thousands of dollars in many cases if you wanted to run.
Or hours and hours and hours and hours of time collecting petition signatures. So instead, we just registered as Republicans, and we took over the local Republican Party, basically. I mean, that's all. That's all it's about. And there are some things we agree with the Republicans, some things we agree with the Democrats. So it's easy to focus on the things we agree on.
I never agree with them on anything. I don't agree with them guys on anything. I mean, I don't see how anybody could.
I'll give you one example. The Republicans in Keene, New Hampshire, by and far, were against the raising of the smoking age to 21, which is something that the city of Keene government did. They were against that. They saw that correctly as what it was, which was a nanny state move by the city government. So they were right about that one.
Even
what do
a
you
stopped
think?
clock is right twice a day.
The truly important issues that affect us in the greatest way, the money system, the foreign policy, there isn't a stinking dime's worth of difference.
Well, in New Hampshire, they don't have any opinion on, their opinions don't matter on the money system and foreign policy because New Hampshire doesn't have a military and it doesn't have a state fiat currency.
And there is a huge difference in that the Democrats, when Chavez took over, before he had completely starved Venezuela, the Democrats cheered him on, said, yes, you're doing the right things. You're doing to Venezuela what we want to do to America, now they're starving to death in Venezuela, and the Democrats are saying, oh well, we didn't mean that way. We didn't want to shut down the economy and starve you to death.
They're in your government, and they're just puppets, and they're working to put puppets in and take puppets out and shake them all about all over the planet. Our country. I wish we'd focus our disgust and hatred, not any for Venezuela, that poor little country down there. Why waste time on them?
Well, they're poor little morons, though. They're a poor little country that was the richest country in South America before they were morons and adopted socialism. Now they're starving to death. Yes, we're also the U.S. government is also imposing some sanctions on it, but the Venezuelans are starving to death because the Venezuelans are idiots and implemented socialism.
Venezuela was not a financially poor country until the socialism came about.
That's correct.
So,
yep. Hey, Dana, thanks for the call tonight. I appreciate hearing from you. And, the Republicans aren't helping anything by putting sanctions against them, so that's making matters a little bit worse. But for the most part, it was the ravages of socialism that caused that decline and continues to cause the decline in Venezuela, because it does keep getting worse. Well, thanks for the call. There's more coming up here. Hour number 2 is...
She seems happy happier. Her fur is so much shinier, silkier, softer. She has really mellowed a lot.
Sheba is 105 lean pounds of shiny, smooth, happy dog for life.
The shedding has stopped. The itching has stopped.
Since 2001, we've helped more than 250,000 dogs get over their nutritional deficiency miseries.
And saved our customers bazillions in vet bills.
Everything we tried failed except the Dinovite.
Come to Dinovite for help.
DINOVITE.com.
If you want the dog to be healthy, you got to feed it something healthy.
The omega-3 fatty acids.
Flaxseed, zinc, alfalfa.
The digestive enzymes that are cooked out of regular dog food.
Dinovite is nutrition.
Dinovite for life.
Don't let your dog itch, scratch, stink, or shed like crazy.
Come to Dinovite for help.
859-428-1000.
859-428-1000.
DINOVITE.com.
Free Talk Live.
This is Free Talk Live. You can bring up whatever you want here. The toll-free number is 855-450, free like freedom. That's 855-450-3733. We have the Discord call-in line rooms. They're over at discord.lrn.fm. Here tonight, you've got Ian.
Nobody.
And Chris.
And, of course, you can bring up whatever is on your mind. Coming up, we will also be talking, well, since the caller that we had in the last hour did bring up Venezuela, we can get into that coming up here, because I do have a Venezuela-related story about the Petro, their so-called cryptocurrency, the latest about that fiasco. But first, we got to get deeper into this story, Chris, that you brought in about the Easy Pass automated tolls that are now in effect in states like Massachusetts, where they have fully implemented Easy Pass and gotten rid of human beings as far as toll takers are concerned, and they're now sending out pay by plate or whatever it is.
Yeah, so it's called pay by plate or cashless tolling,
right?
And it's where they take a picture of your license plate if you don't have, if you haven't been coerced into acquiring a tracking device, which is i.e. Easy Pass, then they will basically track you anyway via your license plate and send you a bill in the mail.
And we're talking about how this affects people who are out of state. If you live within the state in which these systems are implemented, they're gonna come after you. But if you are outside of those state boundaries, things get a little interesting, and we're going to get into that. But I do want to bring this up because I've been looking here online, because we had some level of discussion about the cost savings or lack thereof. Is there a cost savings? Some numbers? I don't have numbers, but I do have a statement from because whenever you look for this stuff, it's just like basic frequently asked questions about Easy Pass. But I did find a story from NPR, actually, in the headline, analyzing the hidden costs of Easy Pass tolls. Now, the story's a little old. It's like a decade old, but they interview a Professor Finkelstein, who is from, I believe, MIT. Yeah, Amy Finkelstein from MIT, so Massachusetts Institute of Technology.
It sounds like they're suggesting that it may actually be more expensive for Easy Pass than no. Is that not what they're saying?
The professor says, so here's the question from NPR. They say they said you would think the costs would go down because they're employing fewer people to take the tolls. The professor says that's right. It is certainly cost saving. However, it may actually make it easier to raise revenue because people are less aware of how much they're paying in tolls. So there's no doubt, according to the professor, that this system saves money. Of course, the money isn't passed on in the lowering the cost of tolls. Mm-hmm. As you pointed out earlier, they're raising the costs of the tolls, one, to incentivize people to get Easy Pass so they can more be easily tracked, and two, because if they decide to raise the tolls from $1 to $1.25 to $1.50 to $2, it's not like the people feel it immediately. When you went through the toll previously and they said $2, you had to reach in your pocket, pull out $2, and hand it over. Now it's just dinged to your Easy Pass. So there won't be as much public outrage. There won't be as much even public notice when they raise the tolls.
So here's one of the problems with Easy Pass, though, is there's been so many, and it's also true of cashless tolling, but there's been so many problems with fees and bills that never got the system just not operating properly, that it actually has caused a lot of outrage over the years over its existence.
Doesn't matter. It's not going away. People can get outraged over it.
It's not going away. It's not. I agree. I don't think it's going away.
The professor's point is correct.
Yeah.
People won't notice the prices going up if they don't have to pay directly.
Right, and they end up paying more than what people initially perceived because of various billing issues that they then get charged $100 on or whatever that they never even received, or they were not alerted to the fact that they need to refill their account with credit and so on, those types of issues.
So what happens if you have an Easy Pass and you run out? Do they then hit you with an extended fee or something like that?
I believe that is the case. I don't have Easy Pass myself.
Yeah, I've never had it.
I believe New York or New Jersey was charged. I think both New York and New Jersey was charging a $100 fee if you run out of credit, and then you go through and it doesn't alert you. Well, they're just like, well, we don't care, and so you have to pay this fee even though it never alerted you when it was supposed to alert you. And that kind of thing is and apparently New York and New Jersey are the worst. So you might go through a couple of tolls, so you might have $300, $400, $500 bills
before you notice
later. And there's even people who have had $100,000 bills as a result of $100,000 bills as a result
hundreds
of,
or thousands.
No, $100,000 bill. Yeah. Because of the billing systems are just terrible, and the way everything works.
And how do you challenge it?
You can't. I mean, you can't. Not effectively. There's no real effective way.
In Florida, and they were a pain to deal with.
When didn't they call it Sun Pass down there?
They had both of those systems in use at the same time in Florida. And so you could have both a Sun Pass and an Easy Pass.
I see.
And I think Easy Pass ended up buying Sun Pass, or Sun Pass died.
Yeah, because it showed a map of Easy Pass, and it's almost all the Northeast, but then Florida.
Right.
So there's a bunch of states between Florida and the rest of the Northeast that don't have it.
Is that because there's no? I hit up to North Carolina, but I don't usually travel past North Carolina. Are there not toll roads past North Carolina?
Not that I'm aware of.
I would imagine there probably aren't, because there's not a lot of people.
The only place where you could still use Easy Pass, though, is bridges. I don't even know if there are toll bridges now that I think of it in the southern United States. There may not be.
Yeah, it seems like definitely a Northeast. Tolls, especially in the Northeast, are.
Pull that story back up, Chris, because we hadn't even really gotten into the meat. I mean, we sort of ended up just discussing, the ups and the downs of this system. And what we really wanted to get into was how avoiding registering with Easy Pass and not living in the state is actually a way to get around this.
Yeah, so let's see here.
Because they're just sending you a bill in the mail, and if the state that you're living, the geographic area you're living in, that state government doesn't have an agreement with Massachusetts, you basically don't have any real liability.
Yeah. So this is what it has to say. About 15 million. And one more thing I want to point out is there's a difference between them being able to bill you, okay, and you actually having to pay. And this is about enforcement of that bill that they send you.
Right.
So unless you're living in two states, they have no enforcement mechanism. About 15 million in tolls and fees, however, remained outstanding from more than 456,800 out-of-state pay-by-plate accounts.
These are people who were invoiced but never paid.
Right. Only 2.8 million of which MassDOT can essentially force payment on due to reciprocity agreements it has with Maine and New Hampshire officials. So basically what they're saying here is the only states they can force you to pay these bills are in Maine and Maine, Massachusetts, and New Hampshire.
Right, because New Hampshire and Maine will do their bidding.
Right. If you don't have a plate...
New Hampshire has to have reciprocity because they have Easy Pass.
No, they don't, because other states have Easy Pass and they don't have that.
That's correct.
Really?
Yep.
That's what we're talking about
So
here.
New Hampshire could change its laws and not have this reciprocal agreement.
Right.
That'd be a good thing to push for.
And it would benefit people in New Hampshire probably more than Mass, because we don't have anywhere near the amount of tolls.
Add that to your campaign agenda. Nobody.
Yeah, definitely.
Somebody will have to look up the RSA, but yeah, I will definitely consider adding that as an issue.
Yeah. Under such agreements, Massachusetts can block New Hampshire and Maine drivers with outstanding toll balances from renewing their vehicle registration after 90 days without payment, according to MassDOT. So yeah, it's definitely something that is very concerning, or should be concerning to people, I think. Massachusetts drivers who don't pay uncollected tolls can also face holds placed on their licenses and registrations. So that's only Mass people, so not New Hampshire or Maine. Without similar agreements in place for other states, including neighboring New York, Connecticut, and Vermont, Massachusetts transportation officials can take little recourse beyond sending invoices when they seek payments from out-of-state pay-by-play accounts. Now, what's interesting is we know people from Vermont who have never even received any of these bills. Now, I do know people from Montana or with Montana plates that have received bills, and I also know people from Montana who have not received bills. Right. So it's certainly interesting, the different states and how this is reflected.
So just to clarify, if you're in New Hampshire or Maine, what was the thing?
If you have a New Hampshire or Maine plate, they can suspend your vehicle registration, but not your driver's
registration.
license.
Okay.
If you're in Mass, they can suspend your driver's license as well,
and maybe even go after you in court. Would be my guess.
Yeah, I guess.
They'll claim you owe money.
Yeah.
More coming up here in moments. This is Free Talk Live. Share your thoughts. Free Talk Live. Dial toll free. Bring up what you want. Hear the number for you. It's 855-450-FREE like freedom. That's 855-450-3733. Here in the studio tonight, it's Ian.
Nobody.
And Chris.
We're talking about how to avoid the Easy Pass / automated toll billing system things that they're implementing, and probably you're going to see them in more states, maybe even where you live. So what are the way around those? Are there some ways around those? We'll tell about it here in a moment. And do want you to know about LibertyCon, which is coming up April 3rd through the 5th. You can go to libertycon.com, and that is where you can learn more about this unique convention with more than 70 pro-liberty organizations that'll be in the same convention hall that you can network with for business or internship opportunities, career advancement. You can also watch some great speakers like John Mackey from Whole Foods, as well as Vernon Smith, who's a Nobel Prize winner in economics, Miriam Issa, pop culture expert, Nassim Nicholas Taleb, the author of The Black Swan, and others. Go to libertycon.com to learn more about LibertyCon, where we will, by the way, be broadcasting Free Talk Live. Libertycon.com, you can save $10 on your registration, which is actually a significant portion of the fee because the registration is under $100, which is amazing. An amazing price for a convention that's a 3-day convention. Go to libertycon.com and use code FTL to save $10. That's libertycon.com. All right, so Chris, you've been sharing with us the story about these systems that Massachusetts has one, and I don't know which other states. New York, you said?
is implementing them. I'm trying to think.
New Jersey, I think you said as well.
New Jersey,
where they're getting rid of the toll-taking humans, and they're making it so you just go through, everybody just goes on through. No big deal. You get a bill in the mail.
Yep.
But what happens if you don't pay the bill? Well, if you live in Massachusetts or New York or New Jersey, watch out because they're probably going to come after you. But if you're outside of those states...
That's correct.
Then,
if you're not in, if your state does not have a reciprocal agreement,
right?
And currently the only states that do, in Mass at least, or have a reciprocal agreement with Mass for enforcement, are New Hampshire and Maine. So if you're going through Mass, there's no reason to pay unless you're in, you've got a New Hampshire plate or you have a Maine plate, no matter how many bills they send you.
Yeah, and I don't know if they can send them to collections eventually, to where bill collectors will start calling on you or what. But ultimately, what you're saying here, and this isn't legal advice, but
if they were to send it to a debt collector, you can fight it at that point because it would go. It's not a valid debt. It's
not something you contracted for. That's for sure.
Right. So yeah, I would just fight it at that level, and you should be able to remove anything that gets on your credit report. You can get removed by filing a. I forget exactly what it is. I've never actually gone through the process, but there's something you can file, and it's at the federal level, I believe. So you should be able to get it removed from your.
You file a dispute with the credit agency.
Right. So
in this case, you would dispute it based on I didn't enter into an agreement to.
Right.
to do this. Now, this isn't legal advice, but it is interesting because we know people who are in this situation right now. They've traveled through Massachusetts. Maybe they went to the airport or something like that. Or they just drove through the state, and then they got a bill in the mail. And then if you ignore that bill, the question is what can happen? Well, if you're in New Hampshire or Massachusetts, and we don't know what the reciprocal states are with New Jersey and New York. They may have reciprocals with Pennsylvania or something like that. So you want to do a little research on that. But if you're in the reciprocal states, they can block you from re-registering your car the next year. But if you're not in those reciprocal states, if you're, say, in Montana and you're out driving in Massachusetts or New York,
so
then
what's interesting in Montana
they can't do anything
is
to you.
There is no renewal if your vehicle is over
the permanent registration.
It's permanent registration over a certain number of years, 13 or 11 years or something
11.
like that. So, and that is a potential option for people if you register an LLC. And this is now I'm not a lawyer.
This is an option for people who are in New Hampshire and Maine as well.
This is right. This is true. If you register an LLC and there's people out there, there's companies out there effectively that are called registered agents, I believe, and you can have them register an LLC and then go down to the DMV in Montana and have them register your vehicle under the LLC. And at that point, as long as you take your vehicle in most cases out of state. And use it in interstate commerce, once every, it depends on the state, but once every 90 days. Again, this is just my interpretation. A lawyer is probably going to advise against this, but nonetheless, basically, you probably will need to get insurance, but you can get insurance. And I do have to say that this is something that major companies do. They will register their fleet of vehicles in other states for tax reasons and so on. And it's some
legit.
lawyers have certainly Montana has said that this is legit because
that's what corporations are for. It's to pick and choose as far as political jurisdictions are concerned, to give you whatever the best deal is that's out there, and to shield you from a bunch of crappy deals and to shield you from some legal liabilities.
Right. You do need to make sure that you. I mean, not in New Hampshire, you wouldn't, I guess, but in other states, most other states, you would have to make sure you get insurance. And if you wanted to drive the vehicle outside of New Hampshire, you certainly would. So you probably would want to get insurance. But you can get insurance if you make sure that you ask for what I would suggest is making sure the LLC is on your insurance as well as anybody who's might drive the vehicle. And that should protect you in the event of some sort of collision where if you were in an accident and it wasn't improperly registered or improperly insured, they could decline to pay out. So that's the only thing that I would say that I've seen. But other people I know don't have it properly registered. They're properly registered. They're not properly insured. So it's not so much of a legal concern that I would have. It's more of an insurance concern that I would have.
One of our chatters does have a legitimate concern here that I think is worth raising on the air.
Sure.
Sean Ree, who's in our Discord server over at discord.lrn.fm, says eventually they will start working with other states, and then you'll go to renew your registration, and it will not allow you to until you clear your debt. That's a legitimate concern, meaning that
that's assuming it's possible, but
it's going to take a long time.
It's going to take a long time, and two, nothing necessarily says that that debt is valid, right?
But that won't matter to the states.
Bet on the Boogaloo.
Maybe
if the Boogaloo comes.
Well,
then...
look at how long it's taken Easy Pass, right? So, Easy Pass is still only in the Northeast for the most part, with the exception of Florida. So if you live on the West Coast, if you live in the Midwest, if you live, west of the Mississippi, it's going to likely be a while before Easy Pass gets in any way integrated into those states, and then they still have to pass whatever reciprocal agreements after that.
Right.
So you could be looking at the length of more than the long term of life of the car that you currently have, and you may switch out the car that you have between now and then.
And what people have to remember is there's also other ways to kind of get around this. I mean, if it's registered in your partner's name, let's say they come out at you with a $100,000 bill, well, don't register that car. Don't renew the registration. Get rid of the car, buy another car, and have the new registration in your
Would it be attached to a different name? Like, okay, well, wait a minute.
Of course, because there's a name attached. There's a business or there's an individual attached to the registration, right?
Right, but what if it's your same name? Would they go after you personally if, like, car A was in your name and then car B is in your name? Are they going to attach the debt from car A to car B? Or will having a new car completely make it so they don't know who you are anymore?
Well, eventually they're going to push to put it on your driver's license like everything else.
But vehicle registration is not tied to your driver's license because you can register a vehicle
under a corporation,
under an LLC. Yeah,
that's true.
Yeah,
so
and that's one of the advantages of doing that.
All right, 855-450 free. If you want to weigh in here, you can take control of the airwaves here. This is Free Talk Live. Bitcoin.com has launched a trading platform at local.bitcoin.com, allowing you to buy or sell Bitcoin Cash via dozens of payment methods like PayPal, Venmo, bank deposit, remittances, or meeting in person with cash. There are no ID requirements to sign up for and use the site, and all communications between buyers and sellers are encrypted. Finally, a global trading platform that respects your privacy. Visit local.bitcoin.com to get started trading Bitcoin Cash. local.bitcoin.com. It's Free Talk Live, inviting you to join us here. The toll-free number is 855-450-FREE. We're talking about tolls and the newer systems that are being implemented in some states to completely abolish the human toll takers in favor of an automated system that sends you a bill. Well, what happens if you don't actually live in the state in which the tolls were issued? And what happens if you don't live in a state where they don't have a reciprocal agreement with the state where you do live? Well, in that case, it doesn't seem like there's really any kind of penalty. In fact, one of our co-hosts, and he hasn't told me that I can say which one, but one of our co-hosts has said to me that he's been using Montana plates for 10 years and has been going through the Easy Pass in Massachusetts, New York, and New Jersey for all 10 of those years, and also in Colorado for a few years, and has never gotten a letter.
That's interesting. So that means there's multiple, I think there's probably a dozen people I know, either co-hosts and or in our community that have Montana plates, and I've only heard of one, I think, that actually has ever even gotten a bill, which is interesting.
My belief on this is that even if noncompliance is higher now than it was before, and it should be, right? Because all these people who aren't paying now, the people who get the pay-by-plate, they get the letter in the mail, and as we showed, the numbers that you were sharing from this story, and I'm sorry, where was it? Do you recall where
this is
masslive.com, were that about 9 out of 10 of the people who've been given these bills by mail have paid them, but 1 out of 10 haven't. But even if all of them didn't pay, they'd still be bringing more revenue in because they're not paying for the toll takers.
Right.
So,
and this argument was brought up originally when Mass implemented this, before it was implemented, because they wanted to know, well, are we going to lose money because of it?
And they won't.
They're going to lose money. They're going to lose money, but they're still going to make more because of the improved efficiency.
Correct. So they're not losing
Walmart
anything.
loses 3% of its inventory every year to shrink, and it makes they don't lose any money. They make money.
Let's talk to Lumpy. He's in Cape Cod in Massachusetts. Lumpy, you're on Free Talk Live. Go ahead.
Good evening, everybody.
Hey there.
So I register my vehicles in Michigan. The reason I do that is because, as a friend of mine had told me one time before, they put a tracking device, or they opted me in for a tracking device on my car. Anyway,
your friend did that? That is not a friendly thing to do.
No, my friend told me, Ian, and his name was Ian.
He told you about tracking devices. Okay, go ahead.
It was years ago. Anyway, I said that there's an option for that, and that I was lined up for that. But I register because the state hates me, basically.
Mm-hmm.
I've stood up to them, and they've done a lot of bad stuff to me. So, and they are bad people. I don't give a
thank you
what anybody says. All right, I really, I don't care. So I do everything I can to avoid paying them. So I had a guest here from Texas who happened to be one of the Libertarian presidential candidates. So that of the 5 that I've smoked marijuana with.
Nice.
And he was visiting. And yes, Gary Johnson lied. Sorry, nobody. Sorry. But Gary lied. It was a Pork Fest a few years back, and he lied about not smoking weed. But anyway, he was running for president, and you know how those guys have to lie.
Sure.
So anyway, so what I
nobody cares if he smoked weed.
My ex got the bill up there, and I had come back from dropping him off at the airport when he was here visiting, and he went. So we got I paid the toll. I went through this side where you could put change in, and we put the change in, and I paid the toll, gave me the green light, and I just went. Actually, I think it was on the way to the airport. I'm not sure because I remember fumbling around for change and saying, "Oh my God, there's nobody here. We have to go this way." This was new to me. So anyway, so we go through, and so she gets a bill later on. She gets the letter. My ex, who did the registration for me, I made sure, she gave her the money, everything. She did everything for me up there. And she gets a bill. And now this would count against her. So it was a bad thing. It would have counted against her because it was in her name. So, I sent her the money for that and she paid it. And, so because otherwise it would have been a problem. When I was up there also years ago, I had a ticket in Vermont and probably one in New Hampshire and probably one in Massachusetts at the same time. And I could not get a license in Michigan because of the reciprocity. So I remember Chris was talking about the reciprocity earlier. Right. So they would not allow me to get a license until I cleared all those things up, until I paid all the fees.
So there's different agreements. Some of them you may not be penalized.
This is what the whole Real ID is about too. That's they're gonna that's another thing. They're gonna get into your on the place where we were supposed to have the right to travel. Here we are with this police state travel regulation.
Well, right? I think they're lying about Real ID. I just saw another headline, Forbes magazine claiming you won't be able to fly without Real ID later this year. I think it's a lie.
I will be flying.
Well, you have to have it.
No, you don't.
No, you don't. For driving.
You don't.
No, you don't. No, I don't have a Real ID.
What state has gone against it besides New Hampshire and
a bunch of states?
I think Arizona doesn't have it either.
Hampshire.
There's several states that have an opt-out option where now in New Hampshire they're pushing it, which really sucks. If you go in and you try to get a license,
the bureaucrats
are pushing Real ID because they believe the story they've been told. Oh, you're going to need it to fly. You're going to need to have.
Well, terrorism.
Yeah, I don't think it's true. I think it's a lie.
I will be flying as soon as very, very. I fly a
they say
couple
it's
times
October,
a year, but I will be flying with a non-Real ID driver's license,
and I probably will be as well.
I will absolutely be probably the first to inform people that no, this is actually a lie.
It's supposed to be later this year.
Yeah,
so be ready for that. Just expect that it's going to take longer, okay? That's what you got to plan for.
I will be
leave an extra hour early.
Showing up to the airport even earlier than I already do. I already show up to the airport earlier than necessary because I always opt out of the scanning devices. The cancer.
I used to fly all the time, and I haven't flown since 9/11. I used to fly all the time. I mean, every month, and I've not flown since then. And I don't know if I have to fly. I don't know what it's going to be like because I don't want to go through their stuff. And
that's interesting.
If you guys know me, I'm going to mouth off to them.
Opt out.
I don't fly if I can avoid it.
Yeah. Hey, opt out. That's the little tiny bit of resistance that like you can still fly and they will not kick you out of the airport.
I'm waiting for the video with Lumpy going to the airport and stripping down totally naked. That's better than mouthing off.
Oh man, that's great.
Then you really give them a show.
I would anticipate an arrest.
I don't want to scare anybody anymore. I'm old and ugly now. Geez.
Hey, thanks for the call. Right. Thanks for the call, man. I appreciate hearing from you. The toll-free number here is 855-450-FREE. So, Chris, did we cover this story pretty well, you think?
Yeah. Okay. I think it's pretty much a game.
So tips are... Don't live within a state that has these systems. That would be helpful. Don't live within a state that has reciprocity. If you do live in a state that has a reciprocity, you can register your car under a corporation in a different state, like Montana, for instance, or Wyoming, or some other state,
which is almost certainly not worth doing purely for tolls. But there are other reasons for it.
There's other
like
things,
shielding liability.
There's also it probably won't shield you on liability, but
it will if there's a court judgment against you. If you have
there's all different kinds of liability.
If you have
everything you're liable.
The driver, they're going to hold the driver
to
responsible if you get into an accident, not the vehicle.
I understand that, but if you the idea behind putting an asset in a corporation that's not you or not provably owned by you is, like, for instance, there's New Mexico LLCs where they're bearer corporations where there's no owner on record. It's whoever has the paperwork is the owner, so they don't know who actually owns the corporation in that case. So if they come after you and they get a judgment against Chris Wade for $100,000, and Chris Wade does the car you drive isn't owned by Chris Wade, it's owned by Think Penguin or some other shell corporation, then they can't take the car.
That's I believe that's correct. It's
Well, the other nice thing is if you don't like registering with the state, something that I've always thought would be cool would be to buy cars and sell them again with a corporate handle. And so basically you form the corporation, you register the car to it, then you sell the corporation to somebody else. Nobody knows who owns that car.
Right, and you don't have to pay the tax on the car sale because you're just selling the person the file folder that's the corporation.
So in New Hampshire, you're going to save hundreds of dollars a year probably.
In other states too, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And whatever the sales tax at the time that you sell the car too, that's what I'm talking about. When you that tax
I'm not even thinking about
that.
I'm just thinking of the vehicle registration.
Yeah, that's you. More coming up here. This is Free Talk. It's Free Talk Live. You can join us here. The toll-free number, 855-450-FREE. Coming up, possibly really good news for Ed and Elaine Brown. The imprisoned tax so-called protesters.
Wait a minute. Weren't they supposed to be held for life or something like that?
Oh, yeah. They were
37 years.
Yeah, they were going to die in prison because they're already in their late 70s, early 80s, for not paying federal income taxes over some number of years. They went to prison back in like 2006, I think. It's 2007, somewhere in that range. And we got an update on that story. That's coming up here. Plus, if you want to join us, you can. By the way, in the studio tonight, it's Ian.
Nobody.
And Chris.
Also, want to say thank you to Jesse Cruz, who is a Free Talk Live Silver Amplifier. Jesse contributes $5 a month to the AMP program. That helps us advertise, market, and promote Free Talk Live to help us get on new radio stations and bring new listeners on board with the show to expose folks to the idea of freedom and liberty and peace and cryptocurrency and the things we like talking about here on the radio. So thank you to Jesse for that, and you can join the AMP program just like Jesse over at amp.freetalklive.com. It's ampamp.freetalklive.com. If you want to opt into having your name thanked on the radio, you do have to opt in because by default you're off the record, you're sort of anonymous. But if you want to opt in, that's easy to do, and there's instructions that you'll be given when you join the AMP program at ampamp.freetalklive.com. You can use PayPal, credit card, or Bitcoin BTC. As we go to your phone calls and thoughts, in this case, it's actually Mark Edge. He is one of our co-hosts who has been traveling over the last week, and he's finally landed after a brief stint in Hong Kong, talking with some of the Hong Kong protesters out there, kind of getting the lay of the land. You've moved on to your destination in Saipan, which is the capital island of the CNMI, which stands for the Commonwealth of the Northern Mariana Islands. Welcome, Mark.
Wow.
Hey, yeah, I'm using the term U.S. Mariana Islands just so that people get a clearer picture as to what's going on. I mean, Commonwealth isn't really descriptive that it's a U.S. territory, so I've just been calling it U.S. Mariana Islands.
And it has been a U.S. territory since, I think, officially either the early 80s, right?
I thought it was even earlier than that.
It's had real weird status, but basically a territory since World War II.
Right, but I think they finally put the Constitution in place and finished up the deal in the early 80s.
When are they going to put the Constitution in place here?
What's that?
When are they going to put the Constitution in place here?
I think New Hampshire's had one for a long time.
Yeah, they don't obey it.
Well, no, of course not. I suspect they don't obey it in Saipan either. In fact, I've got a news story here about government spending being out of control in Saipan and in the CNMI, a $98 million deficit in fiscal year 2019. The details in the story, but later on...
So they're not taxing, but they are spending.
They're spending, yeah. Later on in the story, it actually says that puts CNMI's government in violation of the Constitution. So they're violating their Constitution, too, after just, 30 years.
Yeah.
So anyway, Mark, you've been on the ground there for roughly a full day now. You've had a full day and night.
Can't you get up?
In CNMI. So what are your first impressions?
I think it's great. I don't know what else to say about it. It's not as villagey as I thought. Basically, you drive along the road and there's almost always businesses, especially on the south end of the island. So it's pretty built up here. It's 12 miles long, the island. So
wait, the island or the islands?
Sorry,
just to clarify, you said it's 12 miles long. The island you're on, Saipan, or the whole stretch of islands is 12 miles?
Right. I know the distance from Saipan to the most northernmost islands is about 275 miles.
Okay, gotcha. And there's 14 islands, correct? There's 14 islands?
Yeah, I mean, it's really inconsequential how many islands there are when there's not people on them, but
right.
Yes.
Right. So there's 3 islands that are the primary populated islands, Saipan, Tinian, and Rota?
That's correct. And Tinian and Rota are both sparsely populated. I think Tinian has about 3,500 people. Rota has about 2,800.
Right, and each of these islands have their own senators. So there's 3 senators per island that meet as the national senate. There's also some representatives on each of these islands as well.
So these are not federal senators. These are
just local senators.
Okay, the equivalent of state officials.
They have a representative in the U.S. House, but they have no vote. Correct, Mark?
Right. So they're just observer status, basically.
Correct. And you can't even vote in federal elections if you live in Saipan, and your taxes don't actually go to the federal government.
That's correct. And who wants it?
Yeah.
I mean, when you vote in a federal election, I mean, think about somebody who's from Florida or whatever. What are there, 30 million people in Florida, and you're one of the people that's voting on a senator? I mean, your vote is completely inconsequential in those kind of numbers.
Right.
However, if you're on the island of Tinian and there's 3,500 people and fewer than half of them can vote because most people here do not have, the U.S. citizenship status.
They're immigrants. Yeah.
So you're talking about 1,500 people or so are voting, have the possibility of voting, maybe 1,000 get out and vote tops. Your vote actually has a possibility of making a difference.
Well, even in Saipan, there's only, 19,000 registered voters in Saipan, the big island?
I think there might be a little more than 19,000 registered voters, but there are 19,000 that voted in the last gubernatorial election.
Right, so the current governor won with 9,000 votes, basically.
Yeah, and it's pretty firmly Republican here.
That's what I've heard. Now, that doesn't mean anything because the Republicans there are different from Republicans elsewhere, from what I've heard, though, right?
It means something.
Sounds like
but it doesn't mean everything.
I mean, because they're already in a $98 million deficit in 2019.
Well, sounds like Republicans
they're just
to
like
me.
Republicans that way.
Right.
They're taxing, spend
what they don't have. Yeah. So now let's talk about the reason you actually went down there. I mean, not just because it's warm, and it is warm. It's the most consistently warm weather and most consistent weather across the entire world, apparently. It won a Guinness Book of World Records for this. It's between 83 degrees, 86 maybe, and 76 or something, 77?
Right. I don't have the numbers that it's, the sort of 80-20 rule in the numbers here, but you can be pretty much guarantee that the weather is between 70 degrees Fahrenheit and 86 degrees Fahrenheit at all times. It's somewhere in there. It may be raining, and it rains just kind of, some rain blows in, then it blows out. Not that big of a deal. Not like New Hampshire where it rains for a day and a half.
Well, there are going to be hurricanes. I mean, hurricanes are a real-life, threat down there for sure.
They have typhoons, and they come through. But it's not like, say the Caribbean where the winds off of Africa, blow the hurricanes in to a specific location all the time. They have to show up. There was a major typhoon here a couple of years ago, and they use it as an excuse for not getting on with life a great deal. But, you just build right and you'll be fine.
All right. So the reason you went down there, though, is this Crypto Frontier Project. Tell us about that.
Yeah, the Crypto Frontier Project is the idea of creating, a small group of dedicated crypto guys to probably push acceptance on the island and to maybe attract some people that are actually doing crypto-oriented businesses. Here, when you show up, you're an actual percentage of the population. If you have 10 people on the island of Rota, you have far more success than the Free State Project has ever had as far as actual numbers and insertion in a given geographic area, and maybe that will result in some people doing some business in, this being the hub of all things crypto. I don't know.
I gotta say,
gotta take a look.
I was impressed with the pitch. Alexander, who is one of the idea men behind this, the originators, the creators of the crypto frontier, he came here. He hosted our Thanksgiving show with us, and we quizzed him and asked him a bunch of tough questions about the islands there and what this project was all about, and he had a really persuasive pitch. They come up with some really good reasons why this is an interesting opportunity, and it looks like some big players are already getting involved. I saw Vin Armani, our former co-host here on Free Talk Live, who only left Free Talk Live because he left New Hampshire after having lived here for about a year. His wife got pregnant and they needed the family's help raising the kids, so they went back to California. But he has...
But is that so? I mean, if he's looking at moving here, and he sort of is, he must have left New Hampshire for a reason other than just childcare. Not to say childcare is not great.
Okay, well, that's what he told me. Okay, so I don't know.
I understand. That's because people don't want to say ice falls from the sky and doesn't leave here for 4 months.
Well, why wouldn't they say that? I mean, that's one of the worst reasons to live here.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the worst part about being up here is the ice slipping on it, and that's pretty unfun. But anyway, that's what he told me. So what I was saying was, Vin Armani has joined this group of chatters. There's like a Telegram group for highly interested potential movers, and he's in there. He's a big mover and shaker when it comes to the world of cryptocurrency. And there's been a few other names that have jumped in there that I've seen, and there's a few other things. Mark, can you stick with us and go into next hour?
Anybody need a programmer out there?
I can't. No, I can't.
You got to go. All right, man. Thanks for the call. Appreciate it. 855-450 free. Have you heard of LibertyCon? LibertyCon is not only a convention with great speakers like Whole Foods CEO and co-founder John Mackey and Nobel Prize winner Vernon Smith, but it's also unique because you get a chance to network with more than 70 pro-liberty organizations, one-on-one for the purpose of career advancement, business, and internship opportunities. April 3rd through 5th in Washington, D.C. You can learn more by visiting libertycon.com and use code FTL for a $10 discount on your registration. That's libertycon.com. The next year will be
Free Talk Live.
It's Free Talk Live, and you can bring up what you want. The toll-free number is 855-450-FREE. Coming up, the latest on Ed and Elaine Brown. There's a little bit of potential good news coming up later this month with a new court hearing possible resentencing, but there's also some sad news about Ed and Elaine Brown, the tax freedom advocates who've been sitting in prison, in federal prison. Elaine, for instance, is 78 years old, and I suspect her husband may be a little older than her, so he may be in his 80s by now. If not, he's right around the same age. And we'll tell you the latest on what's going on with them coming up with you tonight. You've got Ian.
Nobody.
And Chris.
And we had Mark Edge, who's one of our co-hosts. He is down in the CNMI, which is the Commonwealth of the Northern Mariana Islands. I bristle at the word Commonwealth. I don't really care for that term. It's also what Massachusetts calls itself.
Yeah. Pennsylvania, too.
Yeah, so...
Commonwealth. They're going to take your wealth and make it common.
Yeah, well, they're going to keep it, is what they're going to do. Or spend it when they don't even have it, according to the story at SaipanTribune.com. And I mentioned this with Mark on the air. He didn't have time to stick with us, but because it's like, the middle of the afternoon there. The CNMI had a $98 million deficit in the fiscal year of 2019, according to a report submitted to the legislature by the Department of Finance. About 63% of it is attributed to disaster-related expenditures in the aftermath of Super Typhoon Yutu. Not just a regular typhoon, but a super typhoon.
Super.
With the rest divided among medical referrals, law enforcement, and other obligations. Unpaid allotments totaled $9 million and change, with a majority of it, about $5 million, owed the Marianas Visitors Authority. That sounds like something you can cut out right away.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
It sounds like the tourism board. 2.8.
Well, privatize it.
Well, privatizing you got to watch out for because
assuming it makes money.
Well, whenever you privatize something with government, it usually means giving it over to some politically connected business and having.
Well, okay, that's not what I meant by privatize. I meant sell it off and let somebody else take it over, assuming it's a profitable venture. And if it's not, then it can just go bye-bye and somebody can do something else with the building.
$2.8 million owed the Commonwealth Healthcare Corporation / Division of Public Health, and $1.2 million owed the Northern Marianas College. According to Representative Tina Sablan, who's an independent representative out of Saipan, the House Minority Bloc has requested a detailed breakdown of the over-expenditures. She says, quote, "We did see there's a spreadsheet attached to the report that indicates which agencies were spending well beyond what was budgeted, and we need a lot more detail about the disaster-related expenditures and how much of that we're getting reimbursed for, and how much of that is the CNMI share, and for things like illegal overtime that we will not get reimbursed for." She says people deserve to know as well. So they go on to talk about how they need more information, this and that. Every year, the finance secretary is required to report to the governor and legislature the overall picture of expenditures versus revenue collections for that year. From 2017, the government overspent more than $8 million. We spent more than we collected. In 2018, we spent more than $26 million, overspent rather by $26 million. And then in 2019, they overspent by $98 million. So that is not a good pattern. You're going over 3 years. It's $8 million on 1 year, $26 million the next year, and $98 million. They say that means...
And how many people live in this jurisdiction?
55,000 roughly.
55,000. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So what is that per person roughly? That's
a few $100s, I think.
The CNMI is in violation of their own constitution, which mandates, the Constitution mandates the deficit be retired the following year. So they haven't done that. Yikes. So what does that mean? If a government is in violation of its own constitution, then what does that mean?
I think they should just cancel the debt. Say, yeah, we don't know that. We're not going to pay that. We weren't supposed to contract.
Okay,
that.
I mean,
sorry guys,
you can do
don't
that.
do business with us.
You can do that. There is. So I'm not necessarily against that idea, but just keep in mind it does mean that the government is not going to be able to get credit anymore, right? Like nobody's going to loan you,
exactly,
which could be a good thing, right? Like so, I kind of support this idea, but
you think it should keep getting worse? Like they just keep raising?
Oh no,
it
I don't
year?
think it should get worse. I think they should just default on their debt and
never get loans again.
Dissolve, right? Dissolve. Let the government dissolve itself.
Yeah, I don't know, but what happens when they dissolve themselves? Would they then create a new one?
No. Why would you create a new one?
I mean,
if you want to repair the road,
but...
you want to take over responsibility of roads, take over responsibility of
roads. I
roads.
wouldn't create a new one, but that doesn't mean they wouldn't. Right?
Somebody might.
How would you go about creating a new government if you dissolved yourself? I mean,
I don't know. They've managed to create one here and there.
In the first place, I mean,
Plus, the U.S. government may also get involved. Who knows what kind of crap they're going to try to pull?
Yeah.
You know? This is our territory, so we're going to do X, Y, or Z. She explained that if there's a deficit 1 year, we need to retire the deficit the next year. That hasn't happened in the history of the Commonwealth, she says. Now, to be fair, they've only been in existence legally in this current legal form in the last 30 or 40 years, basically. So it's on the scale of things the newest of all the U.S. states and territories and organizations, right? So like in the mid 1980s, this thing is relatively new,
right?
She says further that it hasn't happened in the history of the Commonwealth as far as I know, but what we know for sure is that we are in violation of that and try to rein in spending. Commonwealth's Constitution, Article 10, Section 6 states that if an operating deficit is incurred the fiscal year, they shall retire it the next year. There should be realistic projections, says the story here at Saipan Tribune, of what the revenue collections will be and a realistic understanding of what could be afforded in terms of government operations and providing services, the rep said. She said there's a lot of talk about generating revenue. That's the majority objective at this point. All of these revenue-generating bills, which tends to mean higher taxes, higher fees. We in the minority want to see better enforcement, she said. What we're pushing for is a government that can live within its means, and it carries out the laws and collects taxes so that services can be provided, and we're not wasting any money.
Wow.
A government that's not wasting money. Isn't that cute?
People are so deluded into thinking that their money is going to be spent effectively. If only there was a monopoly, right? It's like in any other circumstance, people would be rallying against the monopoly.
Yeah.
But when it's government, somehow that's going to be effective,
it's our monopoly.
Efficient. It's going to use your dollars efficiently, and no, that's
we don't
just
want
not how it
healthcare
happens.
run by corporations. We want it run by the mother of all corporations.
Right?
Yeah, that's a great point. And by the way, there was an interesting development that I didn't mention on the air. I would have asked Mark about it if he'd been able to stick with us for another segment, but. And I don't think this is a secret because it wasn't said that it was secret, so I'm just going to go ahead and spill the beans. The founders of the Crypto Frontier Project have purchased a hotel. And this literally just happened like 2 days ago. They won a hotel at a foreclosure auction, so we don't know what they paid for it, but it probably wasn't much. They actually took a picture of the bidding, like the auctioneer and the bidders. There were 3 bidders.
I wonder if
maybe 2.
I wonder if they evaluated like the condition of the property before
it looks
they
like
bid.
It needs a little work.
Because if the property is, not if it's going to be more expensive to fix the property up, they may have paid too much for the land. Or
I don't know. We don't know what they paid for. I don't know what they paid for. They're not saying that. But given that there were only 2 bidders there, I'm guessing it probably wasn't a whole lot of money. There wasn't a lot of competition for this place.
Unless both parties wanted it desperately for some reason.
Quote, this is again back to the story here. She says, these are in some ways very structural issues. These are problems with the system, but at the end of the day, we're talking about mismanagement. We're talking about public funds being misspent and overspent. Well, that's the way governments go. Mm-hmm. And, the only way to get out of this is to end the idea of the coercive state, end the idea of a monopoly government, and let people make choices for themselves. You need disaster relief? Raise some money voluntarily.
Fundraise.
People will help each other. You don't need to, because this is one of the things that people say, we need to have government. What about disasters? Well, every time a disaster happens, you got the Red Cross, you got other organizations that come in there, they collect money from people, not just locally, but around the planet. I'm thinking of the Thailand, was it typhoon or hurricane or whatever that hit a few years ago that just devastated that country. And there were literally billions of dollars that were donated from people who've never stepped foot in Thailand.
It seems like an opportunity to make an investment, to be honest, not raise funds necessarily even. Because
invest in disaster relief?
Well, yeah, because think about it. You need new power infrastructure. You're probably going to need new roads. You're going to need all these things. It's an opportunity. So you should be getting investors, not necessarily just asking for a handout.
We got more coming up here. 855 450 free like freedom. This is Free Talk Live. This is Free Talk Live. You can bring up whatever you want here. The toll-free number is 855-450 free like freedom. That's 855-450-3733. You can take control of the airwaves. We got the latest on Ed and Elaine Brown, the imprisoned tax freedom advocates who went to federal prison for, it's been now well over a decade. There's a little bit of good news and some sad news that we can share with you coming up here in moments. With you tonight, though, it's Ian.
Nobody.
And Chris.
The Next Generation Wallet is coming from Divvy. In a few taps, you'll be able to spend, earn, store, and exchange digital money in seconds. Divvy says you'll be able to send money around the globe in only a swipe and instantly exchange between Divvy, Bitcoin, and fiat currencies like the dollar right in the mobile app and withdraw directly to your bank account. There's no need to wait, though, as Divvy already offers the first one-tap solution for earning passive income with their multi-tiered masternodes, allowing anyone to support or to earn by supporting the Divvy network. When the new Divvy wallet launches, because of Divvy's relationship with Western Union, Divvy will be in 200 countries, including the United States. You can learn more at DivvyProject.org. That's DivvyProject.org. Let's go back to your phone calls and thoughts. Gene, the Christian anarchist, is on the line in Tennessee. Hello, Gene.
Yeah, I'm not sure I know how to use this call-in line. I'm used to using the Discord, but I guess your sound card is out. Huh?
Yeah, something's wrong, and I didn't even get a chance to do anything with it last night, so hopefully I'll be able to work on fixing it after the show tonight. So apologies for the inferior sound quality, but it's still good to have you nonetheless. Go ahead.
Well, I just thought I'd call about Saipan because I think it's kind of funny. I was there about 5 years ago, and now Mark is there. So
really? No, were you there just for a vacation?
Now, did I hear you had a horrible time when you were there for like a year or something?
No, I didn't. My wife's sister and her husband, my brother-in-law, lived there for 2 years. So he was working in the hospitals. He's a nurse practitioner, not a nurse practitioner. He's a physician assistant.
Mm-hmm.
So he worked there in the hospital. And he wound up hating the place because it's basically a big corrupt system that's run by the natives. And, if you're an outsider, you're looked down upon. And I mean, literally, you can see, and I was there for a week just visiting. That's my extent. And it's a beautiful place if you want to go snorkeling and on the beach. It's fantastic. And, it's definitely.
Did you feel that you were looked down upon, or was that just something your brother had the experience because he lived there for a while?
No, I did not feel that way, except, the natives there do tend to get a little rude, with somebody they see as a tourist. So I think that's kind of natural all over the planet.
They're rude to the tourists. So even though the tourists are actually bringing in the bulk of the income or the wealth to the island, because it's a tourist destination, right? They're rude to them?
It's kind of funny.
Well, now, keep in mind, most of their money is federal money. They get a lot of free stuff from the federal government. All of their health care the health care is basically federal welfare, and that's what my brother-in-law worked in, was the health care. And, he wound up hating it because the administration there, they were not very friendly. And, actually you can have a gun in Saipan. And he went there from Alaska, so he shipped over his 22 caliber rifle and I think like a 38 caliber pistol, which there's very limited firearms that are allowed there. So
they've got some pretty bad gun restrictions. That's one of the ways it is not particularly freedom friendly. I was actually looking into that over the last couple of weeks. They had to pass a gun package that actually allowed more freedoms for guns, and the introductory paragraph of the law basically says, well, we don't want to do this, and we don't think the people of CNMI want to do this, but because we're a federal government territory, we have to because of the Constitution, so we have to do this. So they weren't happy about it.
Here's what happened with his guns. He shipped them down there. They, of course, confiscated them at the police department for approval, so he had to go through an approval process to have the guns. The guns sat in that police department for 2 years, entire 2-year time that he was there, until he shipped out of Saipan. He never saw those guns because they were still in the approval process.
Wow.
And in fact, I think when he came back, he forfeited those guns because I don't think they ever shipped them back to him. I think he basically had to give them up. So,
how long ago was this?
This was about 5 years ago.
Okay. Because I know they did pass whatever the package of looser restrictions within the last several years, so I'm not sure if it was before or after he had those troubles.
I suspect it was after, because they're just they're compliant technicality wise.
Yeah, but they still have rules. They still have, you've got to have a license to have a gun, and you have to keep it locked, and unless you're on your own property. So it used to be that it just had to be locked any old time, but you can now carry a gun if you are on your own property or on the private property of somebody who will allow you to carry your gun. So there are finally some places where you're allowed to carry the gun, but if you're traveling in between them, you got to have it locked up. So it's not a gun-friendly place.
There's not many places you can go on that island that are basically wild. It's a very small island, and most of it has buildings and property. There's a few, like mountain sides and stuff. Not mountains, but
So it's fairly built up, is what you're saying. There's not a lot of woods.
Most of all the flat land and all of the ocean area is kind of built up. There are some places that are like parks and places you can go for snorkeling and some nice beaches.
Did you go to any of the other islands? Did you go to Tinian or Rota, or did you just stay on Saipan?
No, we were only there for a week, so we basically spent visiting with the family. But, I mean, it was a nice place to visit, but it's so hard to get there because you have to either go through Japan and down or whatever. So it takes you a very long time.
Right.
And really, you can go to the Hawaiian Islands and get the same basic and maybe even a little bit better experience.
Well, the argument is you don't get the freedom on the Hawaiian Islands. That there's the argument from the crypto frontier people is that the Saipan and the CNMI are the freest of all of the U.S. territories, and they argue further that they're even more free than any of the U.S. states, including New Hampshire. So it's an interesting pitch.
Well, I hope they find that to be the case. I mean, my experience over there was limited, and I go with what my brother-in-law said. Dealing with the officials over there is basically quite difficult. So
one example that he gave was something called the Jones Act, where some do-gooder politicians at some point in the U.S. has passed a law saying, well, if you're in Hawaii and these other places that the U.S. has control over, and you want to ship products to it, it has to be on a boat registered to the United States. So you can't ship a product straight from Japan to Hawaii. It has to go from Japan to the U.S. first, and then go to Hawaii.
No. I don't think that's how it is. It just can't be a U.S. registered. If it's going between the island and the mainland U.S., it has to be a U.S. registered boat, I guess.
Okay.
But if it's a Japanese registered boat or some other country, it can go from Japan to the island directly.
Right, but now the CNMI is not subject to the Jones Act, so any ships from anywhere can deliver product to CNMI.
That's good.
So that actually brings prices down instead of artificially inflating them, requiring them to be on U.S. flag-flying ships and such. So there's some interesting exemptions that CNMI has that the other islands that the U.S. possesses don't. Thank you, Gene, for the opinion. Appreciate it. 855-450-FREE, that's the toll-free line. Plus, they have lower immigration restrictions, and they have no limit on the number of, I believe, what they're called H-1B or work visas, which is kind of interesting, too. There's more coming up. It's Free Talk. I want to tell you about my favorite cryptocurrency wallet, Edge Wallet, at edge.app. Edge is the wallet I use more than any other, and that was true long before Edge Wallet became a sponsor of Free Talk Live. Edge Wallet allows you to buy, sell, trade, and securely hold your cryptocurrencies, including Bitcoin, Ethereum, tokens, Monero, Ripple, Dash, Bitcoin Cash, and more. It's available for both Android and iOS, and you can download it via the Play or App Store or via Edge Wallet's website, edge.app. Secure your freedom with Edge Wallet. It's Free Talk Live. You bring up what you want here. Toll-free number is 855-450-FREE, like freedom. That's 855-450-3733. We have the Discord call-in line rooms. Oh, wait, no, we don't. I'm so used to saying that we have the rooms. Tonight's one of the nights where we don't. There's something wrong with the computer. But so call in 855-450-FREE. Tonight with you, it's Ian.
Nobody.
And Chris.
Bitcoin.com has launched a trading platform at local.bitcoin.com that allows you to buy or sell Bitcoin Cash with dozens of payment methods. And by the way, Bitcoin Cash has had a really good last week here. Just in the last 24 hours, Bitcoin Cash has gone up quite a bit. Compared to the price of Bitcoin, Bitcoin Cash is up 16% in just the last 24 hours. Over the last week, up 29%. Over the last month, 59%.
Oh, wow.
So it's been a pretty good week and month for Bitcoin Cash.
I've been predicting that. Good.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you never know what's going to happen, but there's a lot of good things about Bitcoin Cash, and hopefully it'll keep going. But go to local.bitcoin.com. You can trade Bitcoin Cash there with dozens of payment methods. It's a global trading platform where you don't have any identification requirements to sign up for the site at local.bitcoin.com. We go to your calls and thoughts. Penguin is on the line in Virginia. One of our regular Discord callers has to be on the phones tonight. Go ahead, Penguin. Thanks for calling.
Yeah, I'm sure I'll sound just as bad as Gene, but nobody. I have to say, you have some opinions that are a little bit different from a lot of the host. I don't agree with a lot of what you say, and I do agree with a lot of what you say sometimes. But one thing I've noticed is your opinion of the LP. You're a lot more, I think.
The LP is the Libertarian Party. Go ahead.
Yes, you're a lot more friendly and open to the idea of the Libertarian Party and their platform than others. And what's interesting is, I mean, I can't say I support the LP in any way, the Libertarian Party, but.
Are you talking about the national or the state, or both?
The national. I'm down here in Virginia. I don't know our party itself. But yeah, the national, and then I guess under the umbrella of the state.
Now, haven't you been involved in state Virginia LP?
I've actually attended local level LP affiliate.
Right,
meetings.
so you've been involved with the state level, and you had a bad time. I take it
local.
Well, that's
local,
all part of the state.
Local, and I've heard they've had they have a pretty bad reputation throughout various out of the state and also within the area. I've even talked to like a local former Libertarian candidate in my actual hometown. This was the next town over. I went to the meeting in, and he said they are actually captured by Republicans. They don't just act exactly like Republicans. They're just
rough.
Paleo-conservative Republicans. They actually are Republicans, and they just want a smaller pond. The guys that run that show actually are Republicans. They just want a smaller pond. And I know where Republicans used to hold their meetings. So, like, they just maybe they're not, big fish in the local, crony game in the big Republican Party. So they went and called themselves libertarians to have their little deal. And so that explained a lot. That's why I don't feel so bad about my experience there, because they're just lying by calling themselves libertarians.
So what did you have to say to nobody about it?
Well, no, not about that.
Yeah, I'm still waiting for the question.
The idea about the Libertarian Party in general. I was just going to say, I don't really support the idea of the Libertarian Party per se, as in pursuing party politics. But if it does have any value, it's not in actually bringing about any substantive change towards liberty. It's exposing people to the to the idea of liberty and less government as an alternative.
Yeah, that's its job. The Libertarian Party is libertarianism 101 for dummies, okay? That's all it is. That's all it will ever be. That's all it's supposed to be. It's good at that. And none of us, and if you look at those of us who have become libertarians, most of us have become libertarians largely through the efforts of the Libertarian Party, and then eventually we've moved beyond the Libertarian Party. I know with me it was Harry Brown.
It was me with Harry Brown.
And
I don't know if I would have come in if it were Gary Johnson. I don't know if he would have done anything to
I would
affect
have.
me.
Gary was great.
Definitely not.
He was not great.
But the thing is, he wasn't an anarchist. But he's not supposed to be an anarchist. He's supposed to be a Libertarian Party candidate. I'm an anarchist, but the Libertarian Party isn't supposed to be the anarchist party. If you want an anarchist party, start an anarchist party. But what the Libertarian Party is for is to introduce people who are involved in the political system, who are either Democrats or Republicans, to another way of looking at things. But that's all they're for.
I don't know. I think my experience has been with the Libertarian Party or people in the Libertarian Party is. It's very, there's definitely a difference between the Democrats, the Republicans, and the Libertarian Party, people in the Libertarian Party. Now, I've seen libertarians at Republican events and things of that nature, but they're still libertarian. But this is in New Hampshire. I don't know about the rest.
Did you do any libertarian
I'm running
stuff?
for governor as a Republican. It doesn't make me a Republican.
Right. But like you can, I don't know. I feel like I can tell like when somebody's a Republican and when somebody's a libertarian, like there's the things that they're saying. Then again, people
love to characterize each other and mischaracterize each other. So to have that comment, oh, they're just Republicans, that doesn't really mean anything. That's just a slur. Tell me something that they're saying that is false, and then I will say, okay, well, they are saying that and it's false, but they're just Republicans isn't a meaningful statement.
Well, I mean, do you not think that there are some similarities between people who call themselves Republican? Like, I know people who are part of the Republican Party, but they don't call themselves Republican, if that makes any sense.
I mean, are there similarities? Yeah.
Well, a lot of them seem to like pledging allegiance, the Republicans.
Right. Like I could definitely see, like, when I'm in a room full of people who are libertarians and Republicans, like, it's pretty obvious which ones are would identify as Republican and which ones are just, they're there, but they're not really, they're not really Republicans.
Some Republicans like to claim the label libertarian. Some like to call themselves conservative, but they don't call themselves Republican. But I mean, a lot of people just play games with these names. I mean, it's just part of their mind games and everything. I mean, you can see that they see some value and consider themselves a libertarian, but they don't really kind of agree with the broader libertarian principle. There's some value in that name that somehow the party doesn't seem to capitalize on as much as they probably could.
Yeah, I mean, but I think the same thing is true. Like when you have Republicans in the Libertarian Party, like it's usually pretty obvious because there's certain things they'll say.
So, Penguin, I'm curious. You called with critiques for the Libertarian Party. Are you apolitical? Do you do any sort of political action? What's your position?
So which party is better, I guess, would be the question. What
for what? Achieving activists, like achieving some sort of purpose?
I largely lean towards Konkin and his criticism of partyarchy, and really a lot of his writing was a response to how much he hated the founding of the Libertarian Party. But I agree with you, Nobody, that if you understand that the Libertarian Party is just Liberty 101, and from there so many people have been radicalized beyond it, and to the point where they don't even care for it. I think that's true. That's true.
Yeah.
It's true
so
for
it's then
so
foolish,
many people, including me partially.
Yeah, and the extension from that is it's then foolish to, once you get beyond the libertarianism 101, it's foolish to then turn around and say, oh, the party, that's so awful. No, you send them some money so they can bring the next guy around, and then you go about your business.
But sometimes the libertarians are so likely to cut their nose off to spite their face. We tried sending them some money to sponsor their local convention here in New Hampshire, Nobody, to buy an advertisement for the Elect Nobody campaign in their campaign or in their convention guide or whatever that probably wouldn't be attended by more than a few dozen folks, but we were willing to do it anyway, and they actually told us no. They refused our money, even though we're both paying members of their party. They refused the money because we happen to be registered as Republicans.
Yeah, well,
so they wouldn't even let us support them with
I guess
money.
Because I was running as a Republican.
That's what they're saying.
But yeah, and that's stupid. As I said at the time to them, if people are working for more liberty, we should be friendly with them.
I agree.
And that's exactly the position I take with the Libertarian.
This is Free Talk Live. You can bring up anything you want in these remaining moments. We have enough time for you if you want to get on the line. Our toll-free number, 855-450-FREE. We do not have Discord tonight, sadly.
But only if you're a real caller, right?
But you can get on. No, anybody is welcome if you're a real live human being. We'll put you on the air. But we definitely want to talk about Ed and Elaine Brown. It's an update that is both sad and possibly good news. We'll get into it coming up here. We're going to go back to your phone calls and thoughts. And Discord server is there. You just can't talk to us over it. So you can go and chat with other Free Talk Live listeners. You can go actually and join the voice rooms there and talk in verbal form, or you can chat typed form. It's there 24 hours a day. It's just here in this studio, this computer is having sound card issues. So I have to work on that. Anyway, discord.lrn.fm allows you to go and get signed up there. Coming up, ForkFest 2020. It's happening this summer, and you're going to want to be there. If you want to hang out with other like-minded, liberty-oriented people, anarchists like Nobody going to be in attendance, libertarians likely going to be there as well, voluntarists, people that love freedom, liberty. It's a decentralized camping festival, June 29th until July 5th. It's going to include Independence Day this year for the very first time ever. It'll also be the first time ever that ForkFest has happened in the summertime. It's previously been the last week of springtime. And so now it's going to be like the second week of summer, so it'll be a little warmer up there. Because this year it was kind of cold when we got there. I don't know if you remember that, but it was like in the 50s one day, and it was raining, and so being a little warmer will be nicer.
Yeah, prepare for rain, because
prepare for cold nights too.
It will rain, and it may be a little cold at night.
Yeah,
bring a blanket.
Good chance. So forkfest.party is where you can learn more about the event. It's going to be a good time. It's decentralized, meaning there's no ticket cost. Meaning that there's no board of directors. There's no organizers to make choices, some of which could be disastrous. So those things don't happen at ForkFest. You choose what to do. Just want to hang out? camp with other people that care about freedom. That's cool. Or maybe you want to create a thing for those campers to do. Maybe you want to put on an event like Alt Expo. They're going to be likely going to be doing their thing there, which is sort of an alternatives discussion forum. In fact, Alt Expo is going to be at the New Hampshire Liberty Forum coming up in a couple weeks, and we just found out today that ForkFest is sponsoring Alt Expo at the Liberty Forum, so that'll be cool. So if you're going to be coming up for Liberty Forum, be sure you stop in to see us over at the Alt Expo, because Free Talk Live isn't allowed at the Liberty Forum, but we're allowed at Alt Expo. So we will look forward to seeing you there, because Free Talk Live is going to be broadcasting from Alt Expo. So it gives you a little taste of what it might be like at ForkFest. But until you attend ForkFest, you don't really know. So you really ought to plan for June 29th until July 5th. Go to forkfest.party and learn more about the event there. You can connect to the ForkFest chat room and forum. Those are all unofficial, because there's nothing official about ForkFest. And so go book your camping site or RV site or motel room with Rogers Campground June 29th until July 5th. And we'll look forward to seeing you there. Ralph is on the line in Maine. Ralph, you're on Free Talk Live with Ian, Nobody, and Chris.
Yeah, two things. You were talking about socialism earlier. During the financial crisis in 2008, or 2009, that period, the Federal Reserve, the New York Federal Reserve, created electronically $29 trillion and pumped it into the system.
Jesus.
And we
Was
let
it
them
that
do
much?
It. And now there's a shortage in the repo market, where in the last 6 weeks they've pumped $3 trillion to ease the liquidity crisis into the system. And this is the New York Fed. And you know who the largest shareholders of New York Fed are? J.P. Morgan Chase, Citigroup,
Really?
Goldman Sachs, Morgan Stanley, and the Bank of New York Mellon.
Wow.
Now, what kind of socialism would you call that we are under?
Well, corporatism.
It's definitely. I definitely would agree with you that we do live in a very socialist. Whether it is technically socialism or not.
Is that fascism? Is it socialism? I think nobody's right. That's corporatism. Those are corporations ruling the economic system.
I am against the non-voluntary redistribution of wealth, which is what I think we have in the United States, and what I think the socialist governments have too.
Now, if we threw these banksters out, what do you think they would do to this country?
What do you mean throw them out?
Like Venezuela?
What do you mean throw them out?
How do you throw them out?
Well, you take
shut
the
down
power
the Federal
to create money
Reserve.
away from them. They're creating it out of thin air.
Yeah.
They just make it up and decide where it goes to their buddies.
Well, we're doing the best we can
out.
at that. That's why we've adopted cryptocurrency here. What are you doing for it?
End the Fed.
I'm talking about it on the air.
Okay, you're talking about it, but
200 radio stations.
Sure,
That's what I'm doing.
but you have to have a plan, right? Like you have to have something that people can actually do.
Our Constitution clearly states that the power to create money, our currency, should be in the hands of the government, not
You're
a
one of
private
those guys.
corporation.
So you think
we have
the
no
government
transparency,
corporation is going to
accountability
hold on,
for,
Ralph?
Never any
you think you're going to get accountability out of the government?
Well,
that's a joke.
More than we would out of a private corporation. Do you think we'd get more out of a private corporation?
Why do we have to have
do you think we'd know more about what's going on?
Why don't we not have a Federal Reserve and we can use gold and silver as money, and we don't need any of that?
We don't need a private corporation, nor do we need the federal government to create money.
I mean, if you cut out a cancer, what do you replace it with?
Going to be controlling that behind the scenes?
I couldn't. We didn't get your question. You were talking at the same time as Nobody.
You don't think that they'd be controlling this private cryptocurrency behind the scenes secretly?
Yeah, they're not. Because cryptocurrencies, you clearly don't know much about crypto. So, Ralph, thank you for the call tonight. I'll try to explain. Cryptocurrency is open source, meaning that anybody, I mean, most all of them are. That's sort of one of the hallmarks of being
that's a defining factor, I would say.
It's open source.
If it's not, then it's not a real cryptocurrency.
Right, which means that you can go and if a programmer wants to, they can go in and read the code, and they can compile the code themselves, and they can copy the code, and they can modify the code and create their own competing cryptocurrency. That's why there's right now, if you go to coinmarketcap.com, over 4,500 cryptocurrencies that are listed in tokens on that website. There's way more than you could even spend a lifetime trying to analyze. to figure out which ones are which and so on and so forth. So it's an incredibly large marketplace that is completely open to competition and open to anybody that wants to get involved. There's no back doors involved in these things. They're completely independent of the banks, and the banks hate cryptocurrencies. So I mean, if you're of the position that you think crypto is some sort of secret Trojan horse for the banks, you just don't know what you're talking about. With all due respect. And thank you for the call, Ralph. I do appreciate hearing from you. Let me get into the story here. It's a quick one from the AP, Associated Press, reporting on Elaine and Ed Brown, who are currently in prison. We had reported to you recently that there is a hearing, and we didn't know what the date was, but now we do. January 31st. Ed and Elaine Brown are back in federal court for a resentencing hearing because the laws under which they were convicted, most of them have been ruled unconstitutional. And so their 30-plus year sentences are likely going to be removed, or at least a good chunk of them likely going to be completely invalidated coming up on January 31st. There's a good chance that at the end of January, at the end of this month, in 2 weeks, that Ed and Elaine Brown will be set loose either from, like, maybe not right there at the hearing, but ordered released from prison and a release date set for them relatively soon. So there's a lot of optimism about these two tax freedom advocates that have spent the last decade of their lives toward the end of their lives. They're in their late 70s, early 80s. So that's the good news, is that because of a court decision that ruled some of these laws that they were convicted under unconstitutional, there's resentencing coming up. The bad news, however, is that the AP is reporting that Elaine Brown is, by the way, now 78 years old, was sentenced to 35 years in prison after the standoff at the couple's 100-acre property in Plainfield, New Hampshire. Her husband got a 35-year sentence, or 37 years for him. The couple was holed up for 9 months after they stopped showing up in court in the middle of their trial on tax evasion charges. Some of our co-hosts actually went to this property during this situation to show support. I was there on, I think, 2 occasions, actually.
I was there.
You went there. Dave Ridley was there. Mark, our co-host Mark, went there as well. And these folks were peaceful people, and they just wanted to be left alone. Unfortunately, now she is filing for divorce. She says that she is ashamed of her actions in what happened in 2007 and no longer wishes to be married to her husband, Ed Brown. So that's the sad news for Ed and Elaine. Obviously, they aren't being held in the same facility, right? There's male and female prisoners. They're held separately. They probably haven't seen each other for more than a decade, and she's got a resentencing coming up, so I suspect that may be laying in as a factor here to why she's now saying that she's embarrassed, or rather, quote, ashamed of her actions. So
it wouldn't be surprising.
So she's throwing her husband to the wolves, basically. That's what it sounds like.
I don't know if it's throwing him to the wolves, but certainly for...
She's trying to save her own skin.
Save her own skin, yeah.
We'll see you tomorrow. You can join us online in the meantime, freetalklive.com. Check electnobody.com for Nobody and freedomdecrypted.com for more of Chris on his
tomorrow.
show.
Does your dog itch, scratch, stink, or shed like crazy? Come to Dynavite for help.
Order a 90-day supply of Dynavite.
Everything we tried failed except the Dynavite.
Pick up 2 bottles of Super Mega Fish Oil.
Get the 3rd bottle free. Packed with omega-3, DHA, and EPA fatty acids.
Super Mega is great for your dog's immune system, healthy skin, and soft, shiny fur.
Dogs love it. Try Super Omega Fish Oil.
Buy 2, get 1 free.
At Dynavite.com.
DINOVITE.com.